context are misleading.
All right, Dave, we're a bunch of deluded clowns who are being misled. Israel's government is telling the whole truth here. Everyone else is lying or being taken in by lies.
Yeah, it's just like, look, the
and
logical contradictions
we're putting
here.
Jews in danger by promoting these lies.
You know,
you're a Jewish guy.
Yes, I am. And maybe I'll respond to that. Well, first of all, I'll just say that even the idea, like, as you hear these arguments, Piers, where they'll say like, well, we know these numbers that the Gaza Health Ministry puts out are lies because we know Hamas lies. And look, the proof of that is that they revised their numbers down at one point. But doesn't that just kind of lead to the question, Piers, then, like, why would they revise their numbers down if they're just lying? Why, yeah, right. Why wouldn't they just stick with the original numbers that they had?
In fact, the buzzword of the debate.
It's what always happens with the pro-Israel people is like they use what is a point on my side as a point on their side.
And by the way, I wouldn't trust Hamas as far as I could bloody throw them, right? They're a bunch of despicable death cult murderers, right? Just to be crystal clear. I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. And yet historically, their figures through this health authority in this conflict going back decades have turned out to be reasonably accurate. I know that because Israel has accepted them over the years.
And Piers, as you know, because I've been coming on your show for a long time now, you know, I've always said the same thing too. I also don't really trust the Gaza Health Ministry. I'm just making the point that them revising the numbers down would be a point of evidence that they're being honest, not a point of evidence that you can't trust them. But look, I will just say this, okay? And Piers, again, because I've been coming on your show, I've done a lot of these debates, you know, over the last year and a half or so. I would never, like, if you remember, there was this example of the guy in Florida who is being charged with attempted murder right now because he shot two people who he thought were Palestinians. Turned out they weren't. He was wrong. But I would never use that as an example in one of these debates and say, aha, pro-Israel person, you're responsible for that.
Right.
I'm a free market libertarian, free market capitalist guy. There was a Bernie Sanders fan who shot up a congressional baseball game several years back. I would never use that in an argument and say, you're responsible for that, because it's the cheapest, lamest form of argument. You are not responsible if you're telling the truth for as you see it, for some crazy person committing a horrific act of violence. By the way, we're talking about, you know, ongoing innocent people being killed for over 20 months at this point now. So like, that's what the whole conversation is about. But the idea that any of us are responsible. Look, here's the bottom line, Piers. I understand Natasha wants to sit here and say, the reason you've changed your mind is because you've fallen for the propaganda. You've fallen for the lies. The reason why everyone is so outraged is because they're falling for these propaganda. The truth is that the reason why Pierce and so many people around the world are turning on what the Israeli government is doing is because it's just so freaking horrible. Because we're seeing images every day of children suffering through an ungodly fate. We all sit there and think, my God, if those were our kids. It's a pure reaction to witnessing evil. And you got to sit here and spin the fact that this is all propaganda or it's all lies. I mean, look, I admire you being a lawyer and trying to defend your client. I guess that's what lawyers got to do, no matter how guilty your client is. Pierce, if I'm ever charged with murder, get this lady to represent me. So that's who I want on my team. But the bottom line is that two former Israeli prime ministers are not falling for propaganda.
And you know what,